I need to know more about this
Lack of
foster
faith.
life thing. So were you a foster kid all the way through 18, or did you?
So I was with my birth parents until I was 5. I went into the foster care system for 19 months. I got adopted when I was 8,
Mhm.
and then from 8 to 18, I lived with my adopted parents.
Did they
So,
foster you first?
they fostered me for like a month,
Oh,
and then they're like, "Okay, we're gonna adopt you," and I was like, "Okay, that works." And then the whole entire
you weren't
process.
excited? There was no teary-eyed Christmas letter with papers or something like Reddit?
Um, Not really. I just was excited that they had dogs. And so I was like, I'm going to pet the dogs. I'm going to learn how to draw dogs. I'm going to hunker down and just draw dogs while they made all the paperwork to adopt me. I was just like, dogs, did I get to pet the dogs? I was so
All right, all
distracted
right.
by the
I have a
dogs that just
question.
swept up and adopted me.
Answer
All
truthfully.
right.
All
Of
right.
the foster parents you had, are the ones that adopted you the ones you wanted to adopt you the most?
No.
No. Okay.
No. The one before, I was really big fan of my foster parents before the ones that I got adopted. They were too old though. Then they already
Hmm.
had like
That's
7
what you
foster
want.
children to take
Oh,
care
never
of.
mind.
Hmm.
Yeah. I didn't hear what you said.
No,
So
I
you
He
said
said that's what you
I
want.
would
Old
want.
ones, like
I want old ones that
they
like,
can't discipline.
You can get away
Yeah.
with
Well,
murder.
not only that, they'll be gone soon, and they'll, it'll be, oh, this is
It's an
my house
investment
now.
strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you just keep cashing their checks. You know.
Like, yeah, they
Don't tell
were
anybody.
they were very nice to me. Like the
Mhm.
older lady would brush my hair and she's like, "Oh, you're beautiful." Just brushing my hair and I was like, "Oh, that's nice. Ah, yay." And then the ultimate betrayal of my trust from her was when she sent me off to another foster home.
Oh.
And then I was like, "Dang it. I really wanted to be her foster child.
Is
To
it-
be adopted by her."
How does that work? Do they just like put your backpack out on the stoop and like it's a dog with like, "Go get out of here, get out of here," telling you to run down
Throw
the
a
road,
rock.
find a
They-
new family.
Like
They-
Harry and the Hendersons.
Yes.
They told me about like a
makes me
couple
cry
of
every time.
days beforehand, like, "Okay, you gotta pack, you're leaving now." I'm like, "Oh, that's sad. Where am I going?" "Well, I got a new foster family." And it's like, meanwhile, like without talking to me at all, they're like talking to the social worker about a month beforehand. "Okay, we can't take care of her. Can you please put her into a different house? Could you do that for me, please?" And then they'll do all the stuff behind the scenes while I'm oblivious to it because I was 7 at the time and I was only interested in dogs and
Were
drawing
you hard to
dogs.
take care of? Is that what they were saying with that?
I don't know. I don't think I was,
Mhm.
but that's just me. I mean, as an autistic youngin who wasn't diagnosed autistic until I was 16, I was just really quiet and
Mhm.
also ran up the stairs like a dog, and
That's
they didn't
normal.
like that.
They,
And I kept
it
doing
I
it.
did that
How
as
long
a kid.
took them that long to figure it out?
What would you say?
No, she's nonverbal and she goes up the stairs like a dog. You don't think autism, do you? No.
Well, there was with all the foster families that I was with, they were like, "Oh, I think she's autistic," but they never sent me for a diagnosis, like
Mhm.
ever, because they just didn't want to deal with that. I guess.
Where'd you
Well, they
get
don't wanna pay
diagnosed?
for it,
Was it the
right?
state, a private doctor?
It was a psychologist that my adopted mother took me to. She
Mhm.
looked into psychologists who can diagnose autistic people. And okay, fun story. I walk into the psychologist place and I'm like, I'm not autistic. I'm not autistic. Because like
You
before
crawled
this,
in to the
I was like, autistic people are weird. I don't want to be autistic whatsoever. So I go in and then she's like, "Okay, here's some tests. What would you do if you were to brush your teeth?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I just like mimic it, like, and then do the brushing of the teeth. Just follow her tests." And she's like, "Well, you're autistic." I'm like, damn, even when I'm trying not to be autistic, I still
Yeah.
come off as autistic.
Do you have any idea what you got like wrong about that?
She said the way that I was mimicking the action with my hands.
Mhm.
And
That's what I
also-
immediately Yeah, you mime it. Like she didn't ask you to mime it, did she?
No, she didn't. I just mimed it. It was like
That's
because it was
weird.
easier. It was easier for me to describe what's happening if I'm miming it or like visualizing it, and then like describing that picture versus just like coming up with words off the spot. Then it wouldn't be. It would be harder for me to just come up with words on the spot if I wasn't miming it. So I
My
think that was
son
the
is
tell.
autistic. He's not as high functioning as you are, but my son is autistic. He's 20 now. And at first, as parents, like, I guess we kind of pushed back against that diagnosis. We didn't want it to be true. And they'd say, all right, he's autistic. Look at the way he's playing with these toys. And he has like, I don't know, 30 Matchbox toys. And he would do what they called fluffing them. Like you put them in the air and stir them like you were trying to get the salt in your popcorn.
Oh.
And it's like, okay. So you're not supposed to play with toys like that, I guess. So I'm out there teaching him how to play with Matchbox cars and shit like that. And then the next time we go to the doctor, he's going to pass this fucking test, right? So he gets the toys and he lines them all up like there's some sort of traffic jam. And they're like, no, that's not right either. And it's like, fuck. He did the opposite of the other thing. He's still not happy.
Did you try
He
and
should be
trick
going
him?
for a ride.
Be
He should
like,
be like,
doctor, just out of curiosity, how would you play with the toys?
I wouldn't. I'm a doctor.
Me teaching him about the autistic, which might be a lost
Those are for
cause.
children.
He's like, well, I'm a doctor, and so I would also pile
All
them
of a
up.
suddenly he goes, Mr. Woodward, would you play with the toys for me, please?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Play with the toys.
I do remember going to rooms before I went to the person who diagnosed me autistic. There was like a transitionary period between being in the foster care and being adopted, where I had to take these speech therapy lessons, and they had these toys in the waiting room, and I would make these toys like perfectly symmetrical, like even when I was younger. I was like, oh, that's definitely a tell that I was autistic, because I was so focused on making them symmetrical, and they couldn't physically be symmetrical because of the way it was built. So it was always like freaked me out, and I would melt down because they could never be symmetrical. I guess that's also a tell that I was autistic.
Well,
Yeah.
but I feel like because I used to like making things symmetrical as a kid, but I'm not autistic.
Yeah.
Like I think because if someone were to knock my stuff off, I see those faces. I
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like I wouldn't have a meltdown ever if like someone came and knocked my symmetrical thing over. Like what kind of meltdown were you having?
Oh boy, I would just like scream and shout and be like, "You're messing up my thing! God dang it!" And also another story: someone stole my spot on this particular jungle gym, and my reaction was to bite their leg.
Uh-huh.
I bit their leg instead of be like, "Hey, can you get off the thing, please?" I was like, "Oh, you stole my spot!" And then I grabbed their leg and bite into it. That was like my first reaction.
How old were
felt-
you at the biting age?
I was 9.
9. That's past
Okay.
biting.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad though. Like I thought she was gonna say like 17 or something. Like
Was this also one of those things where like you hadn't been in your spot on the jungle gym for like a 24 since like the previous recess, and then someone else, some unwitting girl sits in your spot and you go over guns blazing?
I think I was actually sitting in there for the entire recess. I got up because the teacher called me to do something. I went back outside and the person was in my spot. And I was like, "You're in my spot, chomp." And I just bit their leg.
Did you draw blood?
No blood, but I did get suspended for half a day because it was a Friday. I was like, yes,
Half a day.
Yeah, that's
half
actually
a day.
that's not a negative at all.
Yeah.
Are you totally attached to your routines?
Yeah. If I don't do a particular routine, like workout, watch movies, and then wash my face and take a shower and then get makeup ready. If I don't do this by a certain time of the day, then I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna fully tilted. I'll feel terrible. I'll be like, "Oh no, I'm not productive at all because I'm not adhering to my schedule 100%. And then I'll be prone to freaking out more because my schedule isn't being adhered to. Like I would just start yelling, crying if I'm not adhering to a schedule, or if I like just start feeling weird, and like the tension of not fulfilling that schedule just builds up more and more and more. And because I like to just keep all of my emotions just hidden down because I don't want to like disturb people with emotion talk. And then until I blow up, I'm like, I'm having a terrible time. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I react to not being on routine.
At the end of the day, I have a conversation with my son, the same one, for like 800 days in a row now. We have the same conversation. Yeah, it goes like this. He comes down, he says, Dad, I watched a movie. I say, what movie did you watch? And he gives me the name of it. And I'm like, what's the genre, right? Was it animated? Was it horror? Whatever. Because it ends with me guessing the length of the movie. I ask what the genre is. I might ask him the streaming platform. And I ask him what year it came out, because movies are getting longer. And then I guess the length of the movie. And we do that every day for like 800 days in a row now.
Have you ever nailed it?
Oh, yeah. I nailed it twice in a row this week. Yeah.
Twice in a row. Colin, that's going to be 122 minutes. And then
I do it with hours. Like 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 1 hour, 28 minutes. I got it twice this week in a row.
Damn.
Nice.
You got to gamble. Take advantage of this hot streak you're on. That's a fun game. Like you do talk with your.
No, it's not. It's like, all right, Woody, buckle up. He needs this.
I'm thinking of the 2 victories. I'm not thinking of the 798 defeats.
I was actually having an autistic meltdown right before I did this.
Like South Park was the main. Like South Park was the main one for me in like early 2000s. So I was like middle school age. That was the last big holdout of my parents. Was like, you cannot watch South Park. You cannot watch South Park. And then you slip past that goalie pretty quick.
You know what's weird? My parents let my older brother, older than me by 5 years, they let him watch South Park when he was 12. But then when I was 12, I was never allowed to watch South Park at all. And I was never allowed to watch it when I was like 17. And they're like, oh, you're supposed to get out of here. And it's like, but we're watching it with my brother.
That's
like,
weird.
No, you're not allowed to watch it. I'm like, but you let him watch it when he was 12. What the fuck is up?
One of the biggest, like I'm the oldest, but one of the biggest benefits I always imagined of being the youngest or younger was that you get away with shit infinitely easier.
Oh, so no, actually, not for me.
Ruins the rules. Your parents were stricter on you than your older brother?
Yeah.
It's also pretty typical to be more strict on your daughters, right? Like that's the thing. They overprotect them.
I didn't think about that in the context of like TV shows though, like South Park stuff.
I have an older sister. She was able to do more than I was. I think my parents were like, "Oh, well, we know where we messed up with our children. Maybe if we really heavily sheltered her, then she would turn out fine." No. No.
Look at me, Mom. I'm top 5% on OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Top 5%.
She would hate it. She would hate it.
I didn't know. She would hate that if she does she not know about that the OnlyFans
she
stuff?
Probably does. I just haven't talked to her in 5 years. So
okay.
Well,
it's been a long time.
That is a long while.
Are you actively doing like the no contact thing with Mom?
I mean, not actively. She hasn't really said anything to me, but there has been a couple of contacts where she would send an Instagram message to young Klippa saying like, you're keeping her hostage. She wants to be with me actually, and she wants to do what I want to tell her to do, which is to do software engineering, and I want to crush her dreams of becoming an artist ever actually. And she would send this big long message to him. I'm like, this is deranged, lady. What are you doing? Like, I've chosen a path. You're going to respect that or not, and she doesn't, so I don't talk to her.
He wants you to be a computer programmer?
Yeah, because my dad was a software engineer. And so, I guess...
Have you shown an interest in that?
No, never. I've never shown an interest. I've only shown an interest in drawing, playing Minecraft, and, drawing.
But you know what you know.
Minecraft.
They know that it's a good, stable career with advancement opportunities that they have a leg up in, right? It's the same reason you did accounting, right? I bet that's a similar situation, right?
Yeah. Before I was a software engineer, but before that I was an accountant. And like Kyle said, my father was an accountant, and there was kind of a path that was already paved for me there. But
Fast track, even.
I didn't want to walk it.
Like
His father before him, right? Didn't you once say your grandpa was an accountant too?
He was a salesman and an abusive alcoholic.
But he kept good accounts. No one ever said any different.
This is
Certainly not his wife.
And an abusive alcoholic.
Yeah,
I overestimated him.
Look, the thing is, all of our grandpas were abusive alcoholics.
Yeah.
I think that says something about the quality of either the alcohol or the ladies in those days. It can't be a coincidence that all these men needed to get drunk and rough.
Women
these
were
ladies
tougher.
up.
They had jaws on them.
The greatest generation had its flaws.
It did. It
Yeah,
did.
but they beat
both
those.
of my
They beat the
grandfathers.
Japs and the Nazis.
Not my
I'm-
grandparents.
Did your
Oh.
grandparents stick around, Kyle?
My mother's father fled to Dallas and died of cancer in 1994. We found out on the internet. That's when we got the internet. And then my dad's dad died of cirrhosis of the liver at 35. So they didn't really hang around. No.
Oh, so I'm close here. My father's father ran away when my father was 10. And he did that like thing that you can't do anymore, where you like completely run away and start a new life.
Dallas.
13
went to
miles
Dallas.
away. Mine went like
Started over.
13 miles away. It was like they just never saw him again. Different grocery store. I guess we'll just
One
never
bus
know.
ticket. Yeah, just-
And my mother's father, apparently he was a good guy, but he died of colon cancer when she was a teenager or
Yeah.
young.
colon
something
cancer.
like
It comes for us all. I've already resigned my fate. You know, I don't think
Checked out, bro. Like, you don't get your colonoscopies weekly?
weekly.
Yeah. Woody set me up with a guy.
It's a house call guy.
He's the
Yeah.
best
You
guy
wear
in
a-
business. I promise you.
Yeah,
Right.
you lay prone. He gets a lot
His
of
methods are controversial, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Why do you have to
I'm
test
on
back
board.
and forth so much?
He's very thorough.
If I wasn't on fentanyl, I'd be mad at you.
Did you
Before
guys?
we-
Did you guys have any like parents in the war? I only say this because my dad was in Vietnam. Like my birth dad was in Vietnam. He was an old geezer.
Mhm.
Damn.
By
My
the
family fought a different war.
Wait, so your birth dad was
Cholesterol.
definitely older then, right?
yeah, he was born in 54.
Okay. Yeah, that's like 10 years older than my dad. My dad
And,
was not old enough to fight in Vietnam.
Okay.
My dad was. He lucked out and didn't get his number drawn, so he didn't have to go.
Well, that's lucky.
And my grandparents like got some exemption from World War II, or my great grandpa got an exemption from World War II. One of them for flat feet, which I guess they were like, you can't go. And the other one because he was a farmer. And I guess at the time they were like, all right, you're called up. And they're like, wait, no, you're a farmer. You're like growing it. We need you to keep growing. Go
Yeah.
grow that stuff.
That makes sense.
You don't participate. You go back to your
If
farm.
the farm's going to shut down without you, you stay on the farm. That
Yeah,
makes a
you
lot
gotta
of
keep-
sense.
keep the farm.
Do you have any idea what he
Draft
was?
tricky, right? They're like, oh, we don't want to lose our good citizens. This guy's a farmer. You keep doing that. We need you to make food. I think my father didn't go, at least partly because he was in college. If you were going
That's
to
it.
college, we don't want to lose people like you. We'll send these guys who are like worthless,
Married?
but
married,
married,
that
yeah,
connected your thing.
parents. I don't know. I'm not positive about married. I'm definitely positive about parents. And
Only sons couldn't.
Mm.
Interesting. I bet they changed that later on. I bet they had different policies as the war went on. That's how you end up with stuff like McNamara's Morons, which should be a movie, by the way. It's that rolls right off the tongue. McNamara's Morons coming this fall. McNamara's Morons was this army program to utilize those with IQs below 85 in the military industrial complex. The idea was, come on, you can find something for them to do, right? And it turns out,
how'd it
no.
work? No, bad.
No, because you can't teach them the basics. Like a lot of them couldn't read or
Yeah.
write. So then you can't.
They
teach
cause
them. Okay,
more problems than they can even.
they
come
can't read
close to
road
fixing.
signs, so
Yeah,
they
yeah.
can't drive trucks. Okay. Well, you can't. They can't even peel potatoes. It ends up because we're going to hold your hand and get you to the place where you peel the potatoes, and then hold your hand every night back to your bunk and like walk you through all the regiment. boot camp is all sorts of fucking polish your boots and tie your shoes shit. They're not getting any of that, ever.
Jordan
and it was a
Peterson
real
talks
failure.
about this all the time. And he says it like it's amazing. Like the Army doesn't want you if your IQ is below, it might be 85, 73. I forget what the number
83,
is.
I think.
83. Okay. And he says it again and again, like, it's really important to have an IQ over 83. And I'm like, this isn't groundbreaking or amazing to me. This is quite obvious.
Yes.
It helps to have a higher IQ.
Yes.
100%.
I mean, again, if you can't read or write, you're going to really struggle because everything's going to be labeled. Like you can't be a clerk. You can't do any of the behind the scenes clerical shit. Like there's nothing for you. You'd be in the way. You'd be.
I feel like Russia would use them. Russia has these like
wave attacks, right?
Yeah, right. They call them meat waves on YouTube anyway.
Dude, I probably are right now, right? Like I know that it made news for a while when they would pardon a particularly nasty criminal to go to Ukraine. They're like, I think it was a cannibal that they freed. It's like, damn. And like, I wouldn't be any more afraid to go to war against a cannibal than the rest of the Russians shooting AKs at me. But it speaks more to like, wait, they're just gonna let this guy go? But then I was like, he's not ever getting home. He's not ever getting home. He's gonna die in Ukraine.
Oh yeah, they kind of made sure of it. They give those people the most deadly roles.
Yeah.